Kate is all controlling, and it's all about power, control, fame, and money.
Kate zip-tied Collin to a chair and invented bizarre and humiliating punishments for him, and also made him sleep in a basement.
I know my children have suffered abuse, and I know one day they're going to tell their own story, and America will listen.
Collin Gosselin, son of Jon and Kate Gosselin of the TLC show Jon and Kate Plus 8, is set to speak out in a new docuseries, Dark Side of the 2000s, to address what it was like growing up in front of cameras and reveal what happened behind them. Over the years, Collin has been very vocal regarding his relationship with his estranged mother, Kate Gosselin. According to Collin, he was abused and mistreated by her for years.
In a new interview with Vice, the 19-year-old son of exes Jon and Kate Gosselin claims he was the target of his mother's anger and frustration during their split.
I know my mother was going through a lot of things. I mean, a divorce and plenty of different things that can't be easy to go through. And, you know, I want to think that she needed someone to take out her anger and her frustration on. And that it was just kind of me, you know, I was in the way and I was there, so she chose me. I'm not gonna say I was a perfect child, but I'd say my misbehaving was no different from my siblings.
He would be separated from us. Like, he would not get to come and play outside with us. He would eat dinner at different times than us.
The Gosselins rose to fame in 2007 when Jon and Kate landed a reality show documenting their family. The exes, who wed in 1999, welcomed twins Maddie and Kara in 2000 and sextuplets Collin, Hannah, Aiden, Joel, Alexis, and Leah in 2004. After being married for 10 years, Jon and Kate divorced in 2009 and were granted shared physical custody of their kids, with Kate receiving legal custody of all 8 children. In 2010, Kate Gosselin released a book titled I Just Want You to Know. In that book, she detailed the ups and downs of motherhood and penned personal letters to each child. Her letter to Collin is long, but I will read it in its entirety. Quote, "Dear Collin, the story of your name is not a mystery for sure. I know that by now you have heard a million times how Maddie chose your name. She was just 3 years old and wanted a baby brother. She asked repeatedly and even declared your name would be Collin. So naturally, when Daddy and I learned the news that we would be having 7, which later became 6, we knew that you would be Collin. Although you spent the entire time in my belly being referred to as Baby F, you were located on the bottom right side in a tiny spot, with Joel sitting on top of you the entire time you were in my belly. I laugh now because I wonder if that is the reason you and Joel tend to annoy each other at times. You had already spent a lot of time in close quarters together by the time you were born. At birth, you were the biggest baby, the only one who broke 3 pounds. And don't forget the ½ ounce above. Every little bit counted at that size. You were my big boy. Even though you were big, you actually struggled a lot. Due to your respiratory issues, I was not able to see your face for 2 weeks following your birth. It really bothered me that I didn't know what my little boy looked like. And furthermore, I couldn't even hold you. I remember the first time Daddy and I were able to hold you. We left Kara and Maddie to swim with friends on that Sunday afternoon and drove to the hospital eagerly. We held you for a short time before you started to have difficulty breathing, but it was so good to see who you were, even if it was cut short. You had gorgeous dark brown eyes and floppy cheeks that were precious. I loved holding you close. I have enjoyed watching you grow. And remember the first time I knew you were a genius? You were barely 2 and I was changing your diaper and dressing you. You said, "Boo, Mommy." I thought you were trying to scare me until I realized you were pointing at your blue shirt. I had no idea you knew your colors, but when I started pointing to every different color in the room, you proved it to me. I was quite astonished. And my amazement of your intelligence didn't stop there. You are the only 5-year-old I know who can add 17 and 21 and come up with the correct answer. You, by nature, are also very sweet, kind, and helpful. I encourage you to continue to use these gifts and help others whenever you can. I have seen you help your brothers and sisters, as well as myself, and it warms my heart. Keep it up, sweet boy. We appreciate you. As you have grown, however, I must say, you have also challenged my authority greatly. At 2.5, you began testing and trying my parenting at every chance. I called Daddy at work many days crying because you would not obey. I had to ask you every day, who's in charge, you or me? You would reluctantly answer, "You are." As you have grown, this fact has not changed. You continue to be determined to do what you want to do, and I continue to try to rein you in. Most days, I am able to see that this determination is a quality I also possess. It is a quality that will take you far, as long as you make the right choices in life. You will prevail and succeed at whatever you attempt. This perseverance is a wonderful quality, if steered correctly. I am working on good choice versus bad choice with you now at 5 years old. I pray that your good choices in life will far outweigh your bad ones. If you allow me, I will be with you, helping you to make the right choices so that you are able to succeed, always. Although I obviously do not possess the skills necessary to father you, I will walk with you and help guide you as I do my very best to mother you. I desire for you a rewarding career, a healthy, loving family, and happiness, always. I pray that you will grow to love God and make choices that please Him, always. I know that the recent events in our family structure have greatly upset you, and maybe you most of all. I want you to know that I have and will continue to make decisions based on what I believe is best for you and your brothers and sisters. These changes, I realize, are still painful and hurt a lot, but I want you to know that my love for you will never change. I will never leave you, and when I must leave to go to work, I will always come back. I will be your same mommy, as I often remind you now. You and your brothers and sisters are the reason I breathe. The fact will never change. Thank you, Collin, for the complete honor of being your mommy. There is a special place in my heart that has your name on it. Love forever and always, no matter what. Mommy.
Listen, I'm one of those people who's on your side in terms of that you're a single parent. You don't have really any other source of income, to take care of all these kids. So this is what you have to do. I'll go along with that on that one for you, for sure.
It is.
Although a lot of people criticize you, like you just went onto Twitter and they're turning on you already. What is it about you that provokes this type of negative attack? What is it?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. I know that there's a lot of single moms out there. I have more than the average number of kids. And this is something that Jon and I started together, and it was working then. It's still working for me and the kids now. And we're all happy doing it. I'm working. They're running in and out of the frame. And if they want to run off and not do what we're doing, they don't. If they don't want to go along, they don't.
How is your relationship with Jon these days?
Do
you make him grovel at all? Because I would.
No, I don't, because I need to put my energy towards raising my kids. There's not enough of me to go around, even if I was married and had a happy marriage. So I respond positively to him, and we deal with each other where the kids are concerned. And, I keep my words positive. I mean that. I don't just say that. I need to look at it. What is best for the kids? What is best for the kids? That's what I say to myself constantly.
Well, he went kind of wild after the split.
Though Kate was adamant in the fact that she would always do what was best for her children, she would be accused by the press and public of exploiting them. In 2014, journalist Robert Hoffman re-released a book titled Kate Gosselin, How She Fooled the World. In that book, there are several allegations made against Kate, with one of them being child abuse, which we will focus on in today's episode. For context, Robert Hoffman was a freelance journalist who worked for Us Weekly and was assigned to cover Jon and Kate during their show. According to Robert, the information in his book has been collected upon conducting hundreds of interviews with those closest to Jon and Kate, as well as having access to her journals, computer documents, and court records. In his book, he explains how he was able to obtain this information and why he wrote the book. Quote, "My experiences with the Gosselin children, especially Collin, are priceless to me. Whenever I was with the kids or my kids were playing with them and it was time for us to leave, Collin would always make sure to come and give us big hugs and kisses and say goodbye. Always. And when I look back as I was walking away, he'd still be there waving to us. He has so much love to give and his heart is so big." In 2010, two of these sweet kids, Collin being one of them, were expelled from kindergarten for acts of violence and for using foul language. When I saw Kate go on television to deny they had been expelled and to blame Jon and the stress of the divorce as the reason they were acting out, I knew I had to at least tell what I know and what I've seen. In the interest of full disclosure, I found Kate's journal while combing through documents and computer disks that she had thrown in the trash the day after she threw Jon out of the apartment above the garage for good. Kate's journal is what finally convinced me to move ahead with this book and kept me motivated while writing. The journal, once and for all, gives us a glimpse into what happened behind closed doors, in Kate's own words, and provides hard evidence that cannot be disputed.
A few months ago, your 6-year-olds, Collin and Alexis were kicked out of school for fighting. Who were they fighting with, first of all?
They weren't kicked out of school. They had medical issues that I'm not free to discuss, but they had real issues that we needed to handle. And they're doing great, and they're reading and writing at a top level, and they're going to be integrated before the end of the school year back into school, and they're doing wonderful.
Do you have homeschooling?
I do. I have a teacher that is schooling them at home currently.
So it's a medical issue. They weren't acting out?
They were. There was, obviously, they were having adjustment difficulties. At that point when I pulled them, we didn't know what the issues were. I mean, a lot of parents face things that you go, oh my gosh, this was working and now it's not. And so we had to figure out what the problem was, and they're doing great.
Do you think that all this TV thing is hurting them in any way?
No, it has
You
nothing.
don't think so?
Mm-mm. I have 6 other kids who are excelling in school and doing wonderfully, and they're excelling at home. And sometimes one school or one situation doesn't work across the whole family. And so when that happens, you have to figure out what the problem is and take care of it.
Right.
It did take me the better part of the school year, and I'm glad to say that I'm now free to relax and know that everyone's doing well. So that's good.
But you have to admit, though, that, I mean, the whole thing with Jon and the whole TV exposure, that must have had some kind of effect on the kids. They're not robots, after all.
Everything in life affects us. And I know that kids who go through a divorce are affected whether they're on TV or not. And that was the main issue. And it's not fun. It wasn't my goal for my kids. It wasn't, what I hoped for them. But, we're dealing with what life sends our way, and everything you can learn something from.
As stated before, Robert Hoffman's book accuses Kate of many things, but the focus of today's video is strictly about the child abuse allegations, now that Collin and Hannah are speaking out in the new docuseries. In his book, he has a chapter titled Mommy's Journal, where he paraphrases Kate's diary entries. Quote, July 2006. Kate said that little Alexis got injured, and Collin brought her a drink without being asked to. She thought it was nice of him, and she praised him, because according to her, he gets more negative attention than positive. She said he is so naughty, and she really doesn't know how to handle him. She says that she needs to show him more love. September 2006. Kate admits that she was a horrible mommy today, and that she failed all the way. She was absolutely awful to Collin, because apparently he was awful to her. She says that he does things just to irritate her. He's only 2 years old, and Kate is beside herself because she can't, quote, control him. She told him to sit in the corner 1,000,000 times, and he disregarded her. She admits to being too rough with him in front of the girls. She says she feels guilty for treating him like that and will try to be a better mommy tomorrow. She says she can't explain it, but she needs to pray for her relationship with Collin. She does love him, but she doesn't understand him. October 2006. Another 2-year-old rough day. Before the official start of nap, the kids stripped again and got spankings. Then Kate got out of control with Collin again, but luckily she sent him to his room until Kate could settle. January 2007. The kids were outside playing, and Collin poured some beans on the floor and was sent inside. He didn't like that, so he knocked down some high chairs in the kitchen, and that set Kate off. Kate said that she was instantly so angry that she grabbed him and spanked him as hard as she could and thought that she may seriously injure him, so she sent him to his crib and whipped him into it very hard. Kate Gosselin said that for the first time she thought she might really lose it, and she was glad that she left him in his crib until Jon came home from work. May 2007. Kate said that the kids were naughtier than normal. 2-year-olds Collin and Aiden continue to try Kate's patience. She goes on to say that not only is she not patient with the boys, she is playing rough with them in response to their constant disobedience. May 2007. Today, Kate thinks she may have crossed the line with the little kids. She finally allowed them to come downstairs, and they got right into the M&Ms for potty training with Collin, And that's when Kate really lost it and pulled Collin up by the hair and spanked him so hard. Kate says she loves them, but she was very angry with them for eating many M&Ms. Kate says that she put them back into their beds for their own safety.
One of our big issues right now is fighting. The kids fighting over territory, belongings, toys, whatever. It is a hard issue to deal with. But basically, when they get ugly, I put them in timeout or try to help them resolve the fight. They are pretty obedient when I send them to timeout. Usually they will go right away and sit there. They are obedient and they take their punishments.
Collin, you can come say you're sorry to Aiden. Give him a hug.
And are willing to say they're sorry.
Sorry, Aiden.
We talk about why we don't do whatever we did, or we apologize to the correct person.
Valley! Where's your boo-boo?
There's the door.
There it is. Come here, Aiden. Now. Now. Did you bite Collin? Come. Let's see. Did you do this? No. Turn around. Did you do that? Look. Did you give Collin a boo-boo?
Owie.
Owie. Tell Collin you're sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry, Taggy. No. Oh, no. Yeah. You're not done, though. Hey, did bite. That's right. Sit. Stay.
They're always biting, hitting, pulling hair, slugging, wrestling. They even beat up on the girls.
Brothers and sisters shouldn't hit.
I know. It's true. I wonder where they learned it.
According to Hoffman, he interviewed several people for his book. In September 2009, he interviewed someone that worked for Jon and Kate as a nanny at some point. According to Hoffman, this interview corroborated what Kate wrote about in her journal regarding her parenting and temper. Quote, "My source told me about Kate's terrible temper and how she spanks the kids all the time for little things. When they don't listen to her just once, she would snap out and spank them. Kate would get crazy when the kids wouldn't pick up their toys and didn't give them a second chance. She once kicked a Lego building the boys made into a million pieces because they didn't put it away the first time she asked them to. Then she made them clean up the mess she had made, all the time yelling at them to put their toys away. She would run the house like a military base, expecting the kids to jump whenever she yelled for them. If she said something and they didn't listen, they'd get spanked. It got to the point that the kids would cower when she yelled at them because they didn't know if they were going to get hit or not.
Honestly, you will never open this door and come in here again. Like our house now, that's a playroom and you sleep on the floor, no one will be found in here. If you do, severe punishment. Mommy and Daddy need their privacy and we haven't had any for a good 4 years now.
And I haven't sleep.
Excuse me, I'm talking. Come in here.
I haven't sleep, Mommy.
Now, John, you can help by standing in here instead of wandering.
Mommy.
Let's have you talk and try to be like the head
This is
of
the
the
last
household.
time you'll ever be in here.
What? Speak.
So take a good look and then out.
No, did you explain why?
Because Mommy and Daddy need privacy. You have your own rooms and you have a whole house.
Excuse me. Severe punishment if you come in here. We need privacy. You may knock on our door. You will never open our door and walk in. That's rude. Understand? This is whose room?
Mommy, Daddy. Let's go back out.
In his book, Hoffman goes on to detail a potty training incident that was caught on camera, which he found disturbing. Quote, "One potty training event in particular bothered me greatly. It happened once again to poor little Collin. He was trying to go to the potty, and Kate left him sitting in a room by himself. For the viewing audience, Kate and the crew had a timer on him to further the humiliation. After more than 30 minutes of Collin sitting, trying to go potty, Kate turns the light out on Collin, leaving him alone in the dark on the potty and telling him, 'Don't get up till there's pee in there. Understand?' Then Kate passive-aggressively taunts Collin by singing, 'Aiden's a big boy, Aiden's a big boy,' because he managed to pee in the potty." Hoffman continues to write that the boys are terrified of Kate, and even more terrified to get dirty. He also alleges that a former babysitter told him she was allowed to spank the children whenever Kate was away. According to her, she was given the authority by Kate to, quote, "carry out Kate's way of teaching the children for even the smallest infractions. This included spanking the children and locking the children in a room for hours at a time. The same sitter was told by Kate to lock one of the boys in the bathroom for her entire shift because he left splashes of water on the sink and floor without toweling it off. Hoffman also alleged that Kate pushed one of the boys outside in below freezing temperature without his coat, gloves, or hat for 15 minutes because the boy didn't close the door all the way when he came inside from playing in the snow. The child was screaming and crying and banging on the doors all around the house. His face was bright red from being so cold when Kate finally allowed him to come back into the house.
I'm not a corporal person. I try to get down on their level and talk to them, where I think Kate was a more corporal person, so we had major differences that way. My dad's from Philly, and my mom grew up in Hawaii, so they were different people too. But we always feared my mom, even though she was little. But my dad, he was very gentle and kind, but I would never mess with my father ever. We just knew our place in the house. But I feel like I'm a loving father. I get frustrated. Don't get me wrong. No one's perfect, but I don't know. I just felt like we had different parenting techniques, and that also led to our divorce. We thought about things differently. We just grew up differently. So I think I want my kids to come to me and tell me everything, but I also want them to experience the world and make mistakes and be free and express themselves freely. Where I think my ex tries to control every single thing and try to set a standard and this and that and don't walk outside the boundaries. But I'm like, how can, they're going to go off to college and experience the world, but if they don't have a foundation, how are they going to function, without any self-reliance or any guidance, with no skills to go into that world?
In closing out his book, Hoffman writes, "The Gosselin saga should be viewed as a cautionary tale by anyone even considering putting his or her children's lives on display to the world. There is no monetary value that can be placed on privacy, dignity, and respect, but the price of denying children those basic human rights is without measure. Alexis, Leah, Hannah, Joel, Aiden, Collin, Kara, and Maddie Gosselin will be paying that price for the rest of their lives. That is the tragedy."
I know how people say, you're exploiting the kids, and I don't know how I really feel about it, just to be completely honest. Like, I agree with you that the kids wouldn't have these experiences, and that's what people don't understand, is that this is her job. Like, you're not a celebrity. You're just a mom with 8 kids. Well, just not saying just a mom, but a mom with 8 kids, because that ain't easy. And, it's kind of like, you get this opportunity and people say, well, I would, really, you're just living at home, you're doing your job. And if I came to you and said, you want to do a reality show? People are like, hell yeah.
I do. I have to tell you, I agree with you. I feel like the critics, the exact critics that are out there, the moms who are saying, oh my gosh, she does this and that. If someone knocked on your door tomorrow and said, this really great group of dads, this crew is going to come hang out with your family and film you doing whatever, and you're going to Australia, New Zealand, and here and here and here, would they really shut the door and walk away?
Some people would. People would, but most people don't realize. I have a hard time believing that, but I feel like there was a time that as soon as Jon and I announced our divorce and our lives were, everywhere, and the kids came to me a few weeks later and said, Mommy, when's our crew coming back? Right.
They missed them. I waited for that, and I waited, and they came and asked. It was a normalcy to them. It was a comfort. Yeah. These guys, when the cameras are off, they're dads. They're helping us. They play games with the kids. They read books to them. I mean, this is family to us.
But then what happens when that goes away? Because there will come a day that all goes away.
But the people won't go away, because we'll stay in contact with them forever. We've made deep, lifelong friendships. I mean, you have to remember, these people have traveled with us as well. They're like part of us.
How do you feel, though, about your divorce being so public?
That was probably one of the hardest things I went through, because I didn't want all that stuff to be out there. I really wished we could have just dealt with it. Our intentions, our early talks were,
obviously the publicity of it all could really become a problem, and it did. And I feel like when you saw me out answering, I was answering to the things that kept getting out there, to assure the world who had watched my kids grow up, they are okay. We're going through this, we're walking through it one day at a time, and I feel like my kids, the 9 of us are stronger, we're a healthier unit, and I feel like we came out of it really well.
Do you wish you hadn't have done certain things in the press? You wish you maybe wouldn't have said,
I only answered what came out. I needed to respond at some point because the rumors get out of control. I mean, 99% of what you read about me online is not true. It's far from true. And so I feel like the answers that I put out there were because I have to remember that my kids are going to be able to look back on this. And there's certain things I needed to come out and say. I need to clear the record and say, this is not what's happening. I mean, and so the only things I came out and said were things that I didn't want my kids to see me, on the Today Show, on any show, bashing their father. I won't do it. You will never hear me do it. He will always be their father, no matter his choices.
Upon Jon and Kate's divorce, they would be embroiled in a years-long custody battle, with both of them hurling insults and jabs at the other. And unfortunately, some of the kids would get involved too. In 2014, twins Maddie and Kara did an interview with People magazine, where they discussed their family dynamic and reality TV. Here's what they had to say. Quote, "People expect us to be damaged," says Kara. "People think we're supposed to be messed up. Like, oh, the poor Gosselin kids. They're going to be scarred for life. Wah. Here's the big news. We're not," adds Maddie.
Good morning.
Well, we have not seen you or gotten to talk to you two in a long, long time, and you're out because you want to let the world know that you're doing okay. Maddie, what would you want to say about how you and your sister and your family are doing?
Maddie, your words.
Oh,
it's your
hard.
Chance.
It's a
Spit
hard
it out.
question.
Oh.
What about you, Kara?
So this is their chance to talk. This is the most wordless I've heard them all morning.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for them, but Maddie, go ahead. Sort of the things that you said in the magazine, that years later, they're good, they're fine. Go for it, Mad. It's your chance.
No, you just said it.
Oh, I said it.
Well, let me ask you this, girls. I mean, to go out and be in People magazine to say, hey, we're doing okay. Why did you feel you needed to say that? Do you think people had the wrong impression of you guys, Kara?
Kara.
My gosh.
What Kara
Yes
is
or no?
thinking.
Go for it. The interpreter.
Oh, wait, what?
What is she thinking? Do people have the wrong impression of you?
Oh. I wouldn't say wrong. I would just say not like the full like story.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people like think that filming like our show has damaged us, but it's only really helped. It's not really done.
They're more aware of what is out there, the, inaccuracies, things that are said by the general public, their father, whoever in general, because their friends talk about it at school. So I sort of am forced to kind of inform them. And I think the most upset, we talk about it a lot, and the most upset they are is because they get really frustrated that people assume certain things in our house. And they always say, but that's not how it is, Mommy. Why do they say that about us?
Yeah, but let me ask you, Kate. I mean, to have them come out here to do a big magazine article, to have them come on national TV and sort of put them on the spot like this, is that helpful to them? Is that the right decision, or does it kind of, that continued exposure, continue the injury to them?
I mean, there is no injury to begin with, and these are any, TV things that we do. Obviously, I mean, I can't get them to do, at this age, at 13, anything that they don't want to do, as with any parent. So it's not like I, force them to do it. This was a, hey, the Today Show asked us if, same with the People magazine, asked us if we wanted to do this. How do you feel about it? And they agree to it, as with my 9-year-olds. It's a family decision. So I think that it's really frustrating when there is so much out there that is not true. I'm getting to the point where I'm extremely frustrated, and I don't spend time worrying about it because I'm busy raising my kids, and we know the truth, and that's why they're here, even though they're tongue-tied this morning, to say that, hey, we're okay, we're doing well. Would that be accurate, girls, to say?
Would you guys want to do another TV show if you could?
Yeah.
You would.
When this interview aired, several outlets weighed in, calling the girls awkward and Kate controlling. Jon also commented and shared his thoughts, saying that the girls were manipulated into doing that interview and that Kate coached them on what to say. In May 2015, Jon filed papers seeking full custody of Hannah, who was 11 at the time. A source told E! Online the following, quote, Jon is filing for custody because Hannah has expressed she is unhappy and uncomfortable in the house with Kate Gosselin. In a perfect world, Jon would take all the kids, but he's not in a position to. For now, he's at least trying to help Hannah. Out of all the children, she's the one voicing her discomfort. So far, Jon has been tight-lipped about this because he's not seeking media attention. It's just about helping his daughter.
Well, I've been going to court for 12 years, so it's not an easy battle. I had shared custody. I lost some kids. I had joint legal. I lost legal. I got legal back. I've been through 9 attorneys. I've probably spent $1.3 million in court, back and forth with everything else. But pretty much I didn't give up. I mean, I pretty much go to court every month over some custody dispute or something like that. It's getting better now that the kids are getting older. So what my attorneys and hers decided is custody is left up to my children. So if they decide to go live with mom or they decide to live with dad, it's up to them. Now, we do have a guardian ad litem. So it's like having a third parent. So if there is a dispute between mom and dad, they can always call the guardian ad litem. And she is a representative of the court and the judge. So she can make a better decision if there is a dispute between mom and dad, which has changed everything. So I like it because now mom can't just say, well, so-and-so says this. Well, so-and-so can now call the guardian ad litem, and she can call the judge and say, well, so-and-so really meant this. And now the judge can really know what the truth is.
As Jon and Kate headed to court to battle it out for custody over Hannah, another one of their kids would make headlines. This time it was Collin. In an interview with Steve Harvey, Jon informed the world that he hadn't seen Collin in over a year and that he had no idea where he was and why.
How much do you see your kids now?
I see my kids every week, once a night. I have a dinner night with them, and then I have them every other weekend. So I do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
You get all of them?
Most of the time I get 4. I haven't seen all of my kids together in about 3 years. I only get what I get. So like,
what do you mean by that?
So with my custody, I do the logistics. So I have to go to the house and get the kids, or I have to go to the bus stop and get the kids. So I pull the gate, and whoever comes down the driveway, that's who I get. I'm not privy to any information. I don't know who I'm gonna get.
Okay, so how do you co-parent?
We don't co-parent. There's no co-parenting. I parent, she parents. At one point in time, I would love to co-parent, but at this point in time, I don't see it happening.
You all
now
don't
the
talk.
kids are stuck in the middle between us.
You all don't talk?
We don't talk, no.
At all?
0. Court. We're talking court.
How does this affect the relationship with the kids? What have you noticed? I mean, what?
I haven't seen my son in a year and a half. I don't know why. I can't talk to him. I have
Are you given a reason?
Nothing. 0. So it's like stopgaps. You know, it's very frustrating.
Okay.
I'm more frustrated than angry.
Okay.
About 7 months after this interview, Jon appeared on Entertainment Tonight, where he once again stated that he hadn't seen Collin in a very long time. He would also elaborate on his estranged relationship with his other kids.
Matt and Kara, I don't see that much or often. We're kind of not talking right now. The kids that I do get are Hannah, Leah, Joel, and Aiden. Sometimes I get Alexis, but not often. And then Collin I haven't seen for a really long time. I mean, I go to the house to pick them up. I can't trespass. Hey, give me my kids. You know, it doesn't work. I mean, I'd have to go to court every single time. So I'm figuring all that out right now as I get more stable in my life and my career.
Not long after Jon's interview with Entertainment Tonight, Kate did an interview with People magazine. On the cover was a picture of Kate and her 7. Collin was noticeably missing from the cover. In the interview, Kate would finally disclose what happened to him, saying, quote, Collin has special needs. There's a fairly fluid diagnosis of what those needs are, but he needs to learn certain strategies to help him deal with things. This has been a struggle we've had for a very long time, and it's one I've dealt with on my own. I've felt very alone in this. By the same token, it's not something that has only impacted me or him. Our entire family has been impacted. He is currently enrolled in a program that is helping him learn the skills he needs to be the best he can be. We miss him so much. So it's been hard because there is a huge hole in our family without him here. But it comforts us to know he's where he needs to be right now. And I can feel good about that. When your kids go to college, do you miss them? Yes. But you reassure yourself that they are getting so much out of it. And that's the same sort of investment I feel like I've made in Collin's future.
Well, a lot has changed for the Gosselins since they skyrocketed to fame on their hit TLC series Jon and Kate Plus 8. And in this week's People, Kate and 7 of her 8 children open up about their life today, including their relationship with their father. In the interview, Kate also reveals why her son Collin was absent from her home in Pennsylvania the day of the People photo shoot. She says Collin has special needs, but will not reveal his specific diagnosis. Kate says he has been enrolled in a program to help him learn the skills he needs to be the best he can be. Kate explains how it's different without Collin around, saying, "There is a huge hole in our family without him here, but it comforts us to know he's where he needs to be right now. I feel like I've made an investment in Collin's future. To know he's somewhere that's helping him reach his very best potential has been a relief in many ways."
In addition to addressing Collin's absence, Maddie would publicly address her relationship with their father. Here's what she had to say. Quote, "He makes it seem like we're being kept from him, which is insane. He should maybe spend some time thinking about why we don't want to see him, and maybe realize that if he ever does want a relationship with us, talking about us on TV is not the right way to make that happen. He doesn't even know us. How can he dare to talk about us?"
Maddie and Kara's father, Jon Gosselin, went public and said that he hasn't seen them in years and that they are not even speaking. This was something that Maddie and Kara were not prepared to have made public. And yet, when I spoke with them last week, what impressed me most of all was the poise and maturity with which Maddie handled herself. They are not going to join him in his game. And as such, Maddie would not reveal specifically why she does not want to see Jon. To have reached that level of maturity and perspective before age 16 is pretty impressive. And for someone who was once labeled by some viewers as the problem child of the Gosselin family, it's pretty great.
When the article came out, Jon was not pleased and accused Kate of once again manipulating and alienating the children. Though Kate revealed that Collin was in a facility for special needs, she never stated what facility that was exactly. And according to Jon, she refused to give him any more details.
How are you different than that Kate from 10 years ago when you were first starting out?
I almost don't even know her. Now it's like the wisdom, the experience, it makes you really a better parent.
We see your son Collin in this new season, but a few months ago you revealed that he is away seeking treatment for educational and social challenges. How did you come to that decision? It had to be a really tough one.
It was not even really a choice. It was on the advice of his doctors, and it had to happen.
How's he doing? He's
plodding along, and we are too, but it definitely was necessary, and I'll go to the ends of the earth for the best for each one of them. This is the best thing I can do for him right now. And so that comforts me.
Is there any contact?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But it's not the same as being at home.
There are reports that Collin told staffers at his treatment facility that he was abused by you, and Child Services reportedly opened an investigation.
I'm in the public eye. I've been investigated many times. It's always unfounded, obviously.
So they're all unfounded?
Yes, absolutely.
Jon said that he has no idea where Collin is and that he has not seen him in a year and a half. He claims that you won't tell him where Collin is.
We are both court-ordered not to speak about the care and custody of our children in detail. I've known all along where he is, but the world doesn't know, and I'll leave it at that.
Jon's in that world. Jon says he's going to court to get a judge to force you to reveal Collin's whereabouts. Are you prepared to take him on legally?
I've lost track of how many times he's said that. I'm really focused less on what Jon has to say.
As their custody battle over Hannah continued, Jon and Kate would remain at odds. That following month, Jon's mother accused Kate of brainwashing the children. In an interview with In Touch Weekly, she said, quote, Hannah told me that Kate made her and her brothers and sisters all chant, "We will not visit Jon." Not even, "We will not visit Daddy." She makes them say Jon.
I'm down a parent. So it's, I'm really outnumbered now. And I have to be kind of the mom and the dad. And that's hard. So it's been, double duty. And there's nobody to back me up. So it's really challenging. But it's not something, I have more than the, average number of kids. But it's something that I'm doing alone. I've found that you're suddenly tuned into, there's so many single parents out there, single moms, single dads, and we're all just kind of like trying to pick up the pieces together. They want a dad who's there for them. I think as for any child. And I think, if I'm going to be really honest, there was kind of the old Jon and the new Jon, and none of us can quite understand what happened there. So we struggled together. They coined it years ago, old daddy and new daddy. And that's understandable, but hard to kind of digest for all of us. I could live my whole life without them and be, I'm a very visual person. So your emotional and psychological energy, I do actually picture it as a barrel of energy. This stuff just it drags you down. It eats away at you. It drains your physical energy. And it's probably the most difficult part, because I could sit here and I could do every talk show and every news show every day for the rest of my life. And what's so upsetting is that there's still going to be a percentage of people that still can't tell the true me from the tabloid picture they've created. There just wouldn't be Kate Gosselin if it wasn't for my kids. Everything I do for them. Being on TV is not easy. Having tabloids written about you constantly is not easy. Having an ex-husband who doesn't see the value in uplifting his children and his family, whether he chooses to be on a show or not, is extremely difficult. But I can't change those things. All I can change is me and my response.
In August 2018, after a 3-year custody battle, Jon was awarded sole custody of Hannah. Though this was a huge victory for Jon, he still needed to fight for Collin. The following month, Jon filed paperwork seeking full custody of Collin. At that point, he was aware of what facility Collin was at and sought to remove him from it.
Kate institutionalized him without a diagnosis and then created a diagnosis. I pulled him out of the institution. He was wrongfully institutionalized. He did not need to be in an institution. Just because he was a difficult child did not mean he needed to be sent away. Against my will, against my right. I did not know where he went. And it took me 2.5 years to find him. And then it took me an extra year to get him out.
Jon, how's it possible you did not know where your son is? You have custody over these children.
I had physical custody and not legal at the time. And the only way I found out that I knew where Collin was is Collin wrote a letter and his roommate smuggled it out. His roommate called my manager. My manager vetted the roommate, because you never know, it could be anyone.
Right.
And that's how I found out that where Collin was.
It says, I'm not trying to trick you, but I still love you. I told Mom I want to live with you, but she said no. And then later on, 2 sentences down, she says, she was abusive to me after I left your house. I'm sorry. I'm counting on you to get me out of here. It's painful to read that from a 12-year-old.
Yep.
How'd you feel when you saw that crayon-written letter of desperation?
It was heartbreaking. And I was actually in the airport in Mexico when it was sent to me. And I felt like we got to figure this out. So once I got joint legal, I presented the letter to the judge. Obviously, he was like, this is crazy. We asked Kate, where is he? She wouldn't tell him. I said, I don't need to know. I have the letter now. And I called the special needs facility. They said, Mr. Gosselin, we'll do anything you want. You can be fully involved. I got my car. I drove to him. First time I saw him in 3 years.
What was that like, seeing your son?
Oh, man, I cried. He was different because he was on like Thorazine and like all these medicines, like all doped up.
In December 2018, the courts awarded Jon full custody of Collin. According to Jon, this process was vastly different compared to when he sought custody of Hannah. In Hannah's case, after Jon was awarded custody, Kate appealed twice. In Collin's case, Kate didn't even show up to the hearing. Now that Jon had full custody of Hannah and Collin, they were set to move forward and begin their new journey. But in September 2020, Collin would make an unexpected post on Instagram, alleging very disturbing things.
And we all know this show, Alicia, it started out as Jon and Kate Plus 8, but where are the family lines being drawn and the numbers going in this kind of family squabble?
Well, Thomas, they're a family divided, and there's definitely some people that are not Team Jon. One of those people is his son, Collin. In a now-deleted Instagram post, he wrote his father's a liar who beat him. He also said he punched me in the face and gave me a swollen nose, and I started bleeding. He then continued to kick me in the ribs after I was on the floor.
Upon these shocking allegations, Jon spoke out and immediately denied them, with his rep telling outlets, quote, "Jon has never abused Collin. No charges have been filed against him, and there is no ongoing CYS investigation. Collin has endured severe trauma. Jon is a loving father who has worked hard to ensure that his son gets the support and help he needs." Kate would make her own statement, calling out her ex-husband and the County of Berks, Pennsylvania Child and Youth Services. In a statement to People, she said, quote, "You do not punch and kick your children. You do not kick a child. I don't want to hear any excuses from anyone, not from his father, not from local law enforcement, not from court personnel whose job is supposedly to ensure the best interest of my children. There is a child abuse law, PA 23, Section 8I, states that any of the following, regardless of whether it causes bodily injury, is child abuse, and first on that list is kicking, period. I don't want my children around him. Enough is enough. It makes me sick to my stomach. I do not want this buried, swept under the rug, or minimized. As a mother, I am not going to sit quietly and idly while my child, any of my children, is assaulted by anyone, let alone their own father. I am spotlighting this, and I will keep shouting about it in the hopes that the authorities and the courts will finally do the right thing. Do not return my child to an abuser's home. Jon needs to be charged with a crime. If this were your child, would you feel okay with having it swept under the rug? I am done hiding and will say this unequivocally. Jon is a violent and abusive person."
Let me just ask you and get it out there. Have you ever been violent against your children?
No, I've never. I'm the passive, I raise my voice. I do get angry, but I've never been violent with my children at all.
So let's go to Kate for a second. So when the article came out, Kate spoke to People magazine. I'm going to quote what you wrote. "I am done hiding and will say this unequivocally. Jon is a violent and abusive person. The police need to do their jobs. I am so sick of Jon's abuse being disguised as everything but. I don't want my children around him. Enough is enough." Why would she unequivocally accuse you of violence and abuse?
She wanted to ride the coattails of this article. She wants to be famous. She suffers from narcissistic personality disorder. She always wants to put herself back in the press. What I don't understand is why would you put yourself into a situation that could be disproven? So she does this article. I have the unfounded. I have, the DA says there's no charges. I have witness testimony. I have other people that have come out and said, no, you did those things. So I don't know what that's called, but she's saying I'm an abuser when it's already been proven that
gaslighting is one
exactly.
word.
Yeah. So
upon these claims, Jon would release proof that the allegations made against him were unfounded. He would also go on to the Dr. Oz show to explain what happened, among other things.
Jon Gosselin joins me exclusively today. There were reports that Collin got upset and dented your car. Then we hear all this tabloid stuff. I mean, what actually happened that day that prompted your son to write something so horrific?
So I had to leave work in a hurry that day, pick them up, that's Hannah and Collin, take them to an orthodontist appointment, and we know how that goes.
Yeah.
And then I had to drop them back off at home and then return to work. So on the way back home to drop them off, like teenagers, they were arguing in the car. I don't even know about what. I'm just trying to drive and get through traffic. And Collin got out of the car. Hannah was yelling. I was like, come on, I just got to go back to work. Can you guys just calm down? And Collin got upset and he threw, I don't even know what it was, a piece of plastic in my car or something. And then that elevated me a little bit more because I'm already in a hurry. And then
that dented the car, whatever he threw.
Yeah, it dented the car, and I was like, really, what's going on here? And then he got in my face, and it was, upsetting words and stuff like that. And then he tried to like push past me, and then we got like entangled, and I had to do restraint on him. It's not the first time I did restraint.
Explain what that is for everyone.
So a therapeutic restraint is so the person, family member or patient or whatever, doesn't hurt themselves or others.
Is it sort of like hugging them tightly or?
Yeah, it's more holding their arms or just keeping them from going in any position, but it's also protecting you. So like they don't punch you or hit you or any of those kind of things.
And have you done this before in the past? So he knew it was coming?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's nothing you want to do as a parent though. It's because the emotions afterwards, you're just like, what did I just do? And like, why am I doing this? And was it the right thing? Then you start second guessing yourself, but it's already done, hindsight 2020. But so anyway, I got back in the car and I left. And then about 5 minutes down the road, my daughter calls me and says, Collin's calling the cops. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm turning around. So he called the police. They've been to our house before. So I went back. And then Hannah told me that Collin told the police that I punched him and kicked him. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. So obviously the police came, took our reports. So they just took witness testimony from Hannah. I didn't do those things. And then they took Collin's testimony and my testimony.
So you provided us a letter that was crafted after the accusation and the post, but before this magazine article came out. And you shared the letter with us, and we have it. And it's from the Berks County Children and Youth Services. You're looking at it right there. And it states, I'll pull this out, that the report of suspected child abuse on Collin was determined to be unfounded. The Berks County District Attorney also told People magazine that no charges or citations were filed as a result of that incident. We're not investigating at this point. So they're validating what you're saying.
Correct.
So I recently read this incredibly upsetting article that argued that, and this, I think it was quoting a therapist saying that Kate had zip tied your son to a chair in order to prevent him from being wild. Your response to that claim?
That's true. I mean,
that's true.
That is his words to a therapist that had to submit a report in court. And that's how I have custody of my son. So it's a court-appointed therapist, and that,
Did you ever see her zip tie?
I haven't witnessed it, but he said it multiple times in multiple situations. CYS has investigated, but the kids that live with Kate don't say anything.
In addition to Jon speaking out, Hannah would also defend her father, saying that he was not an abusive person to them or to anyone. In November 2022, Collin would speak out for the first time in an interview with Entertainment Tonight. Take a look.
Your mom said, Collin has special needs. There's a fairly fluid diagnosis of what those needs are. This has been a struggle we've had for a very long time, and it's one I've dealt with on my own. I felt very alone in this. By the same token, it's not something that has only impacted me or him. Our entire family has been impacted. When you hear that, what do you think?
It's unfortunate that that's how my mom, phrased me as a person. I don't see those things, and I don't think anybody else sees those things, but if that's how she sees me, then, that's her point of view, and I hope that if we met again one day, she would understand that, it's not the case.
But you shouldn't have been there, is what you're saying to me.
No.
What did that do to your relationship with her?
After being there, I didn't have a relationship with her. Even before that, I don't think we had much of a relationship, and I think that just kept tearing it even more down.
Collin told me he was finally able to leave the institution after writing Jon this gut-wrenching letter begging for help. Quote, "You're my dad, my savior. Please help me. I'm counting on you to get me out of here. Daddy, I love you." You wrote a note to your dad. As a matter of fact, you might have even written it in crayon, and you asked him for help to get you out of that place.
Right.
What was going on?
I was in a dark place mentally. I think being in a place like that does more damage than it helps you. So I was hopeless, and I figured out how to write to my dad, and that was kind of one thing that kind of helped me mentally figure out that there was a way out of there, and a second chance, redemption, if you would. So
It's a mommy and a baby bear.
It's supposed to be me and you.
Oh, well, where's everybody else?
If there's a message you could send to your mom, what would you say to her?
It's unfortunate that we didn't have a relationship. I think every son wants to have a relationship with their mom, but I'm doing very well, and yeah, I think I'm good. So.
But you would love to have a relationship with her if you could?
Yes, it would be ideal.
Do you get to talk to your other brothers and sisters?
No, I have not spoken with my siblings in probably like 5 or 6 years now, and it's tough. I would love to have a relationship with them. I would love, for us to one day come together, have dinner together, talk, just have the relationship and catch up on the things that we lost, the time that we lost.
Do you want to send a message to them? Because I'm sure they'll see this.
I love my siblings. I mean, I love them to death. They're the only. Sorry.
No, I get it. There's nothing like the bond between brothers and sisters.
In the past, Jon and Kate were the most vocal about their family dynamics, but as the children have gotten older, they too have begun to speak out. After years of abuse accusations and institutionalizations, Collin and Hannah are ready to share their story. In the new docuseries, The Dark Side of the 2000s, the Gosselins are ready to open up.
Oh, okay, so my mother, she's very controlling, and she's determined. She knows what she wants, and she gets what she wants. There was just this point in filming there, I was like, I don't want to show up on camera anymore.
Well, step one.
I was quiet. I would sit there and just be completely silent in interviews, or, not interact or not do what I had to do.
Kate responds by treating Collin differently from his siblings.
He would be separated from us. Like, he would not get to come and play outside with us. He would eat dinner at different times than us.
I'm not going to say I was a perfect child, but I'd say my misbehaving was no different from my siblings.
I don't think effort was made in the home to help him learn what behavior is acceptable and what behavior is not acceptable.
Kate had him diagnosed with some behavioral disorder and had him separated and put in a special school.
Kate sends 12-year-old Collin to Fairmount Behavioral Health Institute, a psychiatric hospital in Philadelphia.
I was starting to tell my teachers that, my mother was, real quick before can I use the word abusive, or are they not allowed to use that on air?
Are you trying to say your mother was abusive to you? Is that?
Well, yeah, that's kind of the reason why she sent me away. But, I was starting to tell people what was going on at home, and, she caught wind of that and had to put me somewhere where I wouldn't be able to get the secrets out. So being in an institution, it took a toll on me mentally. It was a really, really dark place. All I had was myself. I didn't have anybody else. I had no support system. It was scary. I was confused. I was lost.
So I used to go to my kids' school and have lunch with all of them. And that's when I would see them. I could see them all collectively. One day I look around and say, "Where's Collin?" And they don't say anything, which really scared me. I'm like, "Where's your brother?" So I go to the guidance counselor, Ms. Foster. I'm like, "Where's Collin?" "Oh, he's not enrolled here anymore." I'm like, "What do you mean he's not enrolled here anymore?" Like, he's not a student. He's not here anymore.
They don't talk to Collin. They decided to not have a relationship with him.
Resentments also linger over how Collin was treated.
We did not talk to Collin for years while he was in the facility. We didn't even know where he was. So that was a big thing for me because I couldn't comprehend why my mom would do that to one of our siblings, you know, her own kid.
I love you, Collin. You're gonna be my...
That is like a really dark part of our past.
But Collin's other siblings seem to think differently.
They don't talk to Collin. Everyone eventually found out what happened to him, but now they decided to just not have a relationship with him.
Collin has not spoken to his other siblings since 2016.
I think my mom kind of drove a social barrier between us. She told them the story one way, and obviously I see the story a different way.